I have a source who, I'm not going to say who it is, but they spoke to someone in the feds about the situation, and they say that Diddy's going to get bail.
They go on to say, quote, and maliciously and basically jumps to the conclusions that Mr. Combs is a, quote, monster and a, quote, embodiment of Lucifer with, quote, a lot of similarities to Jeffrey.
The scene opens with Chaos Sean Diddy Combs, a mastermind behind some of the most iconic moments in music history, now finds himself at the epicenter of a legal firestorm that charges racketeering, trafficking, and allegations that could dismantle not just his career, but his entire legacy as a headline that no one saw coming, or maybe some did. Beneath the surface of Diddy's empire lies a labyrinth of whispers, accusations, and old secrets that are suddenly clawing their way into the light. But here's the kicker, not everyone is buying it. And one of those doubters is none other than Vlad, the self-proclaimed godfather YouTube interviews, who thinks this entire case might just crumble under its own weight.
Listen, I've been saying this the whole time. I've been on Piers Morgan. I've done other podcasts. Like I do my own podcast. I say this. I'm like, I'm still not totally sure what he's being charged with. That's such a big deal to the point that he's in federal custody with no bail. I simply don't get it. It's a one-man RICO. He's charged a RICO, and he's the only one charged. I've never heard of a one-man RICO before. Boosie calls it a...
Vlad, the man who's had his finger on the pulse of culture for over a decade, sat down with Gilbert Arenas to unload his take. And boy, did he unload to Vlad. Diddy's arrest isn't the smoking gun it's being painted. As it's a circus, a spectacle designed to shock, he's seen this play out before big accusations, bigger headlines. But when you strip away the theatrics, whereas the meat, Vlad doesn't just think Diddy's walking free, he's certain of it. And his reasoning is not just about the evidence or lack thereof, it's about the game. Let's start with the charges, a one-man RAIC case that alone had Vlad scratching his head. He calls it unprecedented, and he's not wrong. The RICO Act, originally designed to take down sprawling organized crime syndicates, is now being wielded against a single individual, no crew, no associates, just Diddy. Vlad even joked that Bowie, another controversial figure, called a freaky RICO, if you will. But humor aside, the implications here are massive. What exactly is the Fed's angle? Because a RICO case is no walk in the park. It's intricate, it's complex, and it requires evidence so airtight that it can withstand the scrutiny of a high-profile trial. And yet here we are with even seasoned insiders like Vlad admitting they're not entirely sure what Diddy's being...
Like, okay, so since a whole bunch of time has passed...
Yeah.
Right? What are the actual... See, I think because so much spaghetti's been thrown on the wall, and I think the Cassie video for people has said, okay, you're guilty of all this other stuff, and I don't think everybody knows what all the other stuff is.
Now, let's talk about that Cassie video. It's one of those things people keep circling back to, a piece of alleged evidence that's both compelling and problematic. According to Vlad, the video is past the statute of limitations, which means it can't even be used in court. So, why is it still being talked about? Simple as theater. It's there to poison a well, to sway public opinion before a jury. Is even-seated Vlad isn't dismissing the seriousness of the allegations, but he's laser focused on the legal strategy or lack thereof. He sees a case that's relying more on shock value than substance, and he's not the only one.
Thing that is really interesting, and it's going to be a big problem for the defense if you look at this mock jury. The Cassie video. He is not being prosecuted for it. That's a state crime in California, and the statute of limitations is run. But I am telling you, that video was thunderous for a bunch of these jurors.
Behind the scenes, there's another layer to consider. Diddy's track record, say what you will about the man, but he's no rookie when it comes to navigating crisis. He's built an empire, survived scandals, and played the game better than most. Vlad points out that Diddy's rise wasn't just about talent. It was about strategy. He knows how to read a room, how to pivot, how to turn adversity into opportunity. And if there's one thing Diddy's good at, it's creating a narrative. Right now, he's not just fighting for his freedom, he's fighting for control of the story. And if Vlad's predictions are correct, he's playing the long game.
He's going to either get a time served, he's either going to be found not guilty in court and walk free, or he's going to get a time served plea.
But here's where things get murky. While Vlad is busy breaking down the legal intricacies, there's an emotional undercurrent that can't be ignored. The alleged victims and their families are watching all of this unfold, and for them the stakes couldn't be higher. They're not interested in legal loopholes or technicalities. They want accountability. They want justice. And the idea that Diddy could walk free, it's infuriating. Vlad acknowledges this tension, but doesn't shy away from a stance the law is. The law and feelings don't win court cases is a cold, hard truth, but one that adds another layer of complexity to an already convoluted situation. And then there's the industry itself. Diddy isn't just a man, he's an institution. His influence stretches across music, fashion, television. You name it, this isn't just about one person facing charges. It's about the ripple effects that could shake the entertainment world to its core. Industry insiders are watching closely, and the reactions have been as divided as you'd expect. Some are rallying behind Diddy, questioning the motivations behind the charges, and pointing to his decades of philanthropy and community work. Others are keeping their distance, wary of being caught in the crossfire of what could be the most explosive trials in entertainment history.
Everyone keeps saying to me, like, how did you keep, why did you keep going? Why were you there? I'm like, it literally is around me. If I don't stay at home, this is the atmosphere I'm in. Like, I have no choice.
But let's not forget the whispers, the rumors, the stories that have been circulating for years about Diddy's infamous parties and the secrets they supposedly held. Vlad touches on this, briefly hinting at a darker side of the industry that's rarely spoken about openly. It's the kind of thing that fuels conspiracy theories and tabloid headlines, but also raises legitimate questions about power dynamics and accountability. Is this case the tip of the iceberg, or just a distraction? Vlad doesn't have all the answers, but he's asking the right questions, and in doing so, he's shining a light on the layers of complexity that make this case so much more than a simple legal battle. As the interview with Gilbert Arenas unfolds, you can feel the tension building. Vlad isn't just making predictions, he's laying out a roadmap for how this could all play out. He talks about plea deals, potential witnesses, and the role of public opinion in shaping the narrative. But the most intriguing part is confidence. Vlad isn't hedging his bets, he's doubling down. He believes Diddy will not only beat the case, but come out stronger on the other side. It's a bold claim, especially given the stakes, but one that's rooted in his years of experience covering similar stories.
I don't think they have enough on him. It's like, okay, look, so we're having a party and there's some on the table. If you want to take some, cool. If not, I'm not going to shove your head in it. You know what I'm saying?
But that's what I'm saying. How do you prove that? Were you there? Are you holding from 7 years ago? Like that's what I'm saying. Like, the things that people are saying, all that. We're talking about court of law now.
And yet, for all his confidence, there's a sense that this is just the beginning. The charges are only the surface. What lies beneath is a web of secrets, alliances, and power plays that are slowly unraveling. Vlad may think he has it all figured out, but even he admits there are pieces of the puzzle that remain elusive. The deeper you dig, the more questions you uncover. And as the world watches this drama unfold, one thing is clear: the real story is far from over.
Be sued, and I say will be because nothing has been filed yet, by at least 120 people in the next 30.
This is where things take an even darker turn, because while Vlad might be confident in Diddy's ability to sidestep the charges, what he hasn't fully unpacked is the sheer weight of what's lurking behind the curtain. An entire system of power manipulation and deeply entrenched industry politics that seems designed to protect its own no matter the cost. This isn't just about one man fighting for his freedom. This is about an empire scrambling to cover its cracks before the whole thing comes crashing down. And if you thought the stakes were high before, buckle up, because we're about to dive into the underbelly of an operation that's as shadowy as it is sprawling. Let's start with a theory that's quietly making waves among insiders, that Diddy isn't just relying on expensive lawyers and a well-crafted public image to get through this. No, some believe he's got the hidden backing of industry titans, power players who have as much to lose as he does if any of this sticks. Think about it. This is a man who's been rubbing shoulders with the elite for decades, hosting exclusive parties that were as much about networking as they were about indulgence. These weren't ordinary get-togethers. These were the kinds of gatherings where decisions were made, alliances were formed, and allegedly secrets were buried. And now, with the feds breathing down his neck, those same allies might be working overtime to keep the skeletons in their closets from tumbling out.
If you say the wrong thing, or you complain, or I don't know, there's an element where you just, I guess, manipulated in a way to make you feel like, oh, you have to please everyone around you. You can't say anything wrong. You don't want to say a bad thing, or you know, when they're constantly asking you, would you like to do drugs? And you're like, well, I don't do drugs. And they're like, well, why don't you?
The whispers about these infamous gatherings have been around for years. Attendees would leave with stories that sounded more like urban legends, secret tunnels, untraceable invitations, and activities that were strictly off the record. But now with investigators reportedly unearthing evidence connected to these events, the lines between myth and reality are starting to blur. One source claims that the so-called freak-offs, which Diddy is alleged to have orchestrated, weren't just wild parties, they were calculated power plays. According to this theory, the events weren't just about indulgence. They were about leverage. Imagine this: a room full of celebrities, business mogul, and a pancomers all caught on camera in compromising situations. If that doesn't sound like a recipe for control, what does?
Allegedly, these events to invite them back to these private mansion parties and hotel parties and God knows what else. But he was utilizing the branded events to be able to, you know, get the girls to come over to his private space.
But what really set these gatherings apart and what has kept the rumors alive for years was the secrecy. Guests weren't just invited. They were vetted. Sources close to the events claim you couldn't even step foot near one of these parties unless you passed through multiple layers of screening, NDAs, bodyguards, and even devices to block recording equipment were reportedly standard protocol. It wasn't just about exclusivity, it was about control. The guest list was said to include A-listers, business mogul, and even people from the political sphere, all mingling in an environment where rules didn't seem to apply. And here's the kicker: once you were in, it was all eyes on Diddy. He was the orchestrator, the ringleader. Everything revolved around him. And from the way insiders describe it, that was exactly how he wanted it.
Well, first of all, I can only imagine how sloppy Sean Combs was with evidence when he got busted with those 2 machine guns or 3 machine guns with the altered serial numbers. So I really don't trust Sean Combs or the people around him's ability to properly cover up anything. So I envision that you're going to see a trial, payments from his Amex for flights for people, straight payments directly from his company to people.
The parties themselves were legendary, but not in the way you might think. Sure, there were lavish spreads, luxury decor, and music blasting through state-of-the-art sound systems. But those were just the surface-level distractions. The real draw, according to whispers, was the experience, the anything-goes atmosphere that supposedly blurred the lines between fantasy and reality. Attendees would often describe a palpable tension, a sense that they were stepping into a world that existed outside the boundaries of normal social behavior. And of course, the ever-present rumor that these gatherings were less about celebration and more about leverage. Allegedly, hidden cameras were strategically placed throughout the venues, capturing moments that could later be used as insurance or ammunition.
Frame is important because this happened in hotels, in places that have surveillance, that there's records that could be consistent with his testimony about when he alleges that these parties took place. He probably has his own information about who attended the events. When you're somebody like Sean Combs and you're such a celebrity and you're engaged in this type of behavior, people around you are memorializing it.
And then there's the matter of the tunnels. Yes, tunnels. Multiple sources have claimed that some of Diddy's properties featured underground passageways connecting different rooms and even leading to neighboring estates. While this might sound like something out of Spy Thriller, the idea of these hidden routes has persisted for years. Some speculate they were used for discreet entrances and exits, allowing certain guests to come and go without drawing attention. Others believe they served a darker purpose. Unwanted witnesses or interruptions of tunnels have become almost mythological in their own right, a symbol of the lengths Diddy allegedly went to in order to maintain control over his domain.
It was above the law, so I can only think that he was sloppy in the way that he did these crimes, that there's probably a trail of evidence not only involving him but everybody in his circle that he would delegate these responsibilities to, and those people are...
Perhaps the most chilling part of all these stories is a sense of hierarchy that reportedly existed within these gatherings. Guests weren't just there to party. They were there to perform, whether they realized it or not. Allegedly, Diddy had a way of subtly manipulating the energy in the room, positioning people in ways that would reveal their vulnerability. Some left feeling exhilarated, others left feeling used, but almost everyone left with the unshakable realization that they'd been part of Something bigger than themselves is this dynamic, this unspoken power play that has fueled so much of the speculation surrounding these events. Were they simply extravagant parties? Or were they calculated stages for something far more complex? And then there's a question of what these alleged tapes might reveal. Because here's the thing, rumors are swirling about a bidding war behind the scenes. Multiple sources claim that certain high-profile individuals, some of whom were reportedly regulars at these gatherings, are desperate to ensure these tapes never see the light of day. Why? Because if even half of what's being speculated is true, it could blow the lid off not just Diddy's case, but the entire entertainment industry. We're talking reputations, destroyed careers, obliterated, and a domino effect that could reach the highest echelons of power. And that does explain why some of the most influential figures in Hollywood are staying eerily silent than what does.
Surprised with the decision? I'm surprised that Judge Subramanian entertained it. He held a 2-hour hearing, which we were covering live, and he issued a 5-page written order. Most other judges, including the 2 previous judges, to consider this issue, summarily denied the bail motion. I think a lot of it stems from Judge Subramanian being a newer judge. This is a Biden.
But let's not forget the legal battle itself, because that's where things get even messier. While Vlad might see a pathway for Diddy to beat the charges, others aren't so sure the feds don't slap a RICO case on someone lightly. This isn't about 1 or 2 isolated incidents. This is about a pattern and network of system. And while Diddy's legal team is undoubtedly working around the clock to poke holes in the prosecution's case, the sheer breadth of the allegations makes it clear that this is no ordinary courtroom drama, from alleged coercion to financial transactions that reportedly funded these events. The paper trail alone could take years to untangle. And yet, despite the mountain of claims, there's still an air of uncertainty, because for every piece of damning evidence, there's an equally compelling counter-narrative, a reminder that in the world of high-stakes litigation, perception can be just as powerful as proof.
You're hearing about all these videos with celebrities, not going to be part of the criminal case. And
Cassie video.
The Cassie video is going to be part. Right. We're going to get to that in a minute with the jury. But what we did was, number one, we showed them the prosecution's case from one of our documentaries, and then we showed them the defense from the current document.
And speaking of perception, let's talk about the industry's reaction, or lack thereof. While some have rallied behind Diddy, others are keeping their distance. But here's where it gets interesting. A handful of high-profile names have gone radio silent, and not in a way that feels coincidental. These are individuals who've built their brands on being outspoken, on taking a stand. And yet, when it comes to this case, their lips are sealed. Could it be that they're waiting to see which way the wind blows? Or is it possible that they've got their own reasons for staying quiet, reasons that might involve connections to the very events that are now under scrutiny?
There has been no profit motive involved at all. The last word is profit. He's already rich. So whether or not he had the freak-offs or he did whatever.
Follow the money.
Well, there is no money.
Exactly.
I mean, the freak-offs aren't... okay, the way in which I read it, it's not an illegal business. A freak-off is a freak-off, or whatever these things are, right?
That's my word.
But the profit, that last word actually got my attention.
What's clear is that this case has sent shockwaves through the entertainment world, and the fallout is only just beginning. Deals are reportedly being renegotiated behind closed doors, partnerships are being reevaluated, and more than a few people are said to be sleeping with one eye open, because if Diddy goes down, he's not going down alone. The question isn't just who's guilty or innocent, it's who's next, and that's the kind of uncertainty that keeps people in power awake at night.
One thing that I haven't heard said at this table yet is bribery. So he probably promised a lot of these people either fame, fortune, riches. Whether or not he delivered, I doubt it. But that's another matter entirely, right? So that's obviously, if he incentivized some of these people in order to participate in all of these things, that wouldn't surprise me at all. Is that a definition, or does that fit a definition of coercion in any way?
But here's the wildest part. For all the chaos, all the allegations, and all the speculation, Diddy himself has been playing it relatively cool. Sure, his legal team is doing most of the talking, but those close to him say he's as focused as ever. If anything, he seems to be treating this as just another challenge to overcome a high-stakes game that he's determined to win. And maybe that's what makes this story so compelling, because whether you see him as a misunderstood genius or a man finally facing the consequences of his actions, one thing's for sure: Sean Diddy Combs knows how to keep people watching. So where does this leave us? With more questions and answers, of course. What's really on those tapes? How deep does the alleged network go? And perhaps most intriguingly, who stands to gain or lose the most in the outcome of this case? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, stay tuned for more, because if you think the story's over you, haven't been paying attention,